Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Anthony Washington Sr. with Facilitate the Process.com. So what we're going to talk about is disconnect. For the month of June, we pretty much dove into quite a few issues as far as technology and just the biggest part of disconnecting has been technology, right? Or disconnecting yourself from situations or things that you have going on. Could be work, could be personal life, could be pretty much anything, right? But we've been basically talking about disconnecting from those things and focusing on yourself. So kick back, take out a pen and paper, and you might want to take some notes and maybe some things here that you've gotten throughout the month in the group that has been that has been helpful to you. And if you can take something from this presentation, by all means do the same, and then let us know how it worked for you. So sit back, enjoy this brief, very, very brief introduction. All right. So as you saw there, U.S. Army veteran, college basketball coach, high school basketball coach, high school basketball official. What's not in that introduction is also that I do some instruction and facilitation for public safety agencies. So what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to go ahead and pop this up on the screen here, is we're going to talk about disconnecting. All right. So basically stepping away from an increasingly connected world. And as you'll see above me and my background, you'll see the different device connections to use to charge the quote unquote the cell phones and the iPads and whatever tablets that you may possibly have at that time. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump right into this. And in a second after I'm gonna go ahead and remove myself from the screen here so you can see just the presentation. So when we talk about disconnection, we want to talk about why, sort of kind of, I guess you can say, why we're always connected. It's no news that we live in a digitally connected world, but how did we get here? I mean, I think that's the biggest question is how did we get here? So why are we better connected but more alone than ever, right? And let's not just think about alone as in not having anyone around you, right? You may have someone around you, but for the most part, a lot of times with this connectivity, we're more digitally involved with folks, right? So what got us to this technologically tethered state with so many benefits and I guess you can say terrible side effects? So let's dig in and answer those questions by, we digging into three possible topics. Think about the mobile phones, televisions, and the internet, right? As we continue to talk about disconnecting. So, are you old enough to even remember a time before the internet? So perhaps your entire life, you may have had a computer or some access to the World Wide Web, which is that www at the beginning of the email of the URL address that you type in, right? It seems natural and normal to wake up and reach for the first internet connected device you can get your hands on. And to be honest, that's reality for a lot of us, right? So, very brief history is that it pretty much all began in 1991. Most people think online is a relatively modern thing when actually the internet began in the 60s. It was created for government researchers in the United States to share information and collaborate. So think about that. Home computers weren't common in households until the 1980s. The World Wide Web wouldn't give home PC owners access to the internet and global connectivity until 1991. So, for the first time in human history, people had 24/7 global access to virtually limitless information and human interaction. It was in the early 1990s that constant connectivity was born. This was the precursor to your always plugged in and hooked up life. So come full circle, and we pretty much would start with the cell phones, or as they said back then, mobile phones, which came in many sizes. And yeah, so let's go ahead and jump right on in here. So disconnect from tech and reconnect with each other. That is a lot easier said than done. And I want everyone to also know that if you've seen any of my most of my webinars or things that I do live, I don't do a lot of scripting because I feel like, we want it to definitely be right from the heart and that we can all kind of really relate to what we're talking about. So when we talk about disconnecting from tech and reconnect with each other, it we're talking about basically putting down the cell phone, the tablet, um, and it's all the other devices that keep us from actually dealing with folks on a daily basis. One-on-one communication where we're actually sitting in front of someone and actually holding a real conversation versus everything being at the tap of a button, like we do with our phones. We're texting, we're doing video communications from the phone, which aren't bad, right? Because it gives you a chance to pretty much see people you probably wouldn't see unless you had to travel to them. But it's about putting them down, putting them aside for a certain period of time. I don't know what that time would be for you, but putting them down and actually really connecting with a human being versus using the technology on an everyday basis, which we're going to use probably for the most part anyway, due to, it's just that much easier, right? But we can always try to reconnect with other people, go out to a coffee shop, do something to connect with people and try to be a little bit more responsible in our connections and interactions. The most connected generation is also the loneliest. Uh, if you haven't heard me say this before, when we talk about the loneliest, we're not just saying that they are not connected to anyone, right? When we're talking about lonely, we're talking about pretty much that, as we just said, about reconnecting, connecting with people on an actual human basis of in front of that person and talking. Like I'll say things like the when you used to go get your hair cut or your hair styled, right? You would interact with those folks in the salon or in the barber shop, and that's sort of kind of what we miss a lot of because there is a generation now coming up where all they know is the connection to a tablet or some kind of a technological device where that's the only way they communicate, whether it be social media and all of those items. So therefore, sometimes they consider that generation to be the most connected, but then also the loneliest because they are not growing up with that type of connection to quote unquote people, right? And that's a tough thing to have happen because let's say if you take the technology away today or tomorrow, how are those folks that are considered lonely as far as this generation, as far as being connected, how are they going to interact with folks when that technology is gone, when you're forced to disconnect? And we know that that has happened a couple of times when the cell phone systems go down or the internet has went down at a certain time. Different social media platforms have went down and people immediately got online to voice their displeasure when they could just easily go outside or go talk to the other forms of communication. But people were in an uproar when those services went down. Some of the services they pay for, some they don't. But when it went down, there was a problem, right? Might not have been everyone, but this is what we mean. Disconnecting from devices improves mental and physical health. Well, I can honestly tell you that I feel like I am definitely a product of disconnecting and then improve mental and physical health. Um, Sometimes because of our jobs, we are always connected to these items, right? And not only do we do them for work, use them for work, but then we're using them in our personal life. And then we start to use them every day, and we start to use them for maybe sometimes unintended purposes where we say we don't feel like talking to the person or seeing the person. So we'll do the video, or we don't feel like driving there, or whatever. We are now, uh, we're ordering things online. We're ordering our food. We're ordering our clothes instead of going to a shop to do those things, right? Sometimes it feels really, really good to just say, I'm not going to order online today. I'm just going to go to the store, interact with folks. The simplest things: driving on the road, parking your vehicle, um, having maybe even in a disagreement about something, like that's actually in person versus just not doing it at all. And I will say that for the time that I've disconnected, it I did feel pretty good. Um, yeah, I missed a lot of my social platforms and things like that, but I felt really good not feeling like I was quote unquote chained to it, right? So when we disconnect from those devices, it's supposed to improve your mental and physical health, right? Mental wise, we see all the bad stuff. Sometimes we see people posting things about ill relatives or friends. We wish them well, right? But if we definitely know them, it kind of really hurts us as well, especially if we have not been connecting with these folks in a while. And then the first thing we see on social media is we see auntie or uncle or cousin or someone that's hurt and we didn't know. But because we're so connected to social media, that's how we found out instead of connecting with those people, right? Disconnecting from the social media and actually reaching out to those people, going to see them on a regular, something like that, right? So yes, that's something that can really get to you. Or you see bad news on social media, any kind of a way. Especially if you get your news from social media, it can definitely be a detriment to your mental and your physical health. So remember that there are manual ways to do this. Um, uh, just disconnecting and not completely relying solely on our devices all the time. And yes, it is hard. Being constantly connected has made us lose connection with ourselves. Um, so to kind of what we've been talking about thus far, right? Um, while that may not be a great statement to some, yeah, we do lose a little bit of ourselves because some of us are the greatest communicators out there, right? But if we're only communicating via these platforms or continuing to be connected, if we were that person that liked to go hike, we lost that because we're so busy on our devices. We go hiking, and now what do? Instead of enjoying the hiking itself, we got our phone with us hiking, and we're taking pictures of everything out there, which is great. It keeps everyone else connected with you, right? But do you always really have to be connected and do that, right? Some of us we share our trips. Hey, me personally, I may share something here or there, but for the most part, I might do a photo dump when I get back so I can enjoy what I'm doing. Or I might say, hey, quick photo. We're happy. We're having a ball where we're at, and that's it. I'm not giving you 100 photos, right? And sometimes that's where we fall prey at, where we're trying to enjoy ourselves, but we want everybody else to enjoy it right along with us as if they were there. We lose that connection with ourselves and whoever we're with at that time because that's our moment or that's your moment to enjoy whatever you are doing. Disconnect. Leave your work at home. Okay, so if you're working, if you're working in an office and you're bringing the stuff home with you and you really don't need to, and it's really really bothering you, yes, it's hard to leave your work at work. I might have said home previously, but you leave your work at work. It's really kind of hard to do, especially when you know that your loved one or your spouse is there for you to talk to, in reference to that work, right? But this is that disconnect part that doesn't have anything to do with a platform, doesn't have anything to do with a device. It has to deal with the work period that you do. Sometimes leave that at work because it's gonna be there when you get back. It's gonna be there when you get back from vacation. Sometimes we do talk about it a lot, we gotta kind of push that away. Uh, Conversely, if you are remote working, which hopefully, which you'll all get that webinar, and you'll see that as well on our website, facilitattheprocess.com. Remote working is a great thing as well, right? But if you're remote working or you're both remote working at home, now you have work at home. You're forced to have the work at home, right? So then you have to learn how to not talk about work at home. So that you're still leaving the work where it's supposed to be at. It's just when you set that laptop, when you set that computer down, when you set that work phone off, that's it. That is leaving work at work when you're working remotely. Once you're finished working remotely for the day, there is no more talk about work. You can hope to have that. Sometimes it's therapeutic. Let's be real about it. It is therapeutic at times for you to do it. But if you really, really can help it, leave the work at work. If you're working in an office, leave it there. If you are working remotely and you're at home working, hey, once you shut everything down, that is leaving it at work. And then it is what it is, right? Disconnect. Talked about social media already. Social media isn't a social life. I repeat, social media isn't a social life. Social media is another way for everybody to keep tabs on you and for you to keep tabs on them. It's as simple as that. Most of social media is also marketing ploys. How you get the ads that come to your phone and it comes to your computers and your emails, and it's all about bringing you in, keeping you in to shopping, and it keeps you distracted from the outside world, in a matter of speaking. So they want to keep you there. They want to keep you in that world. If you remember back in the day, they had something called The Sims, where you would build all your own characters. You could build pretty much anything. You could get them where you can build your airports and you can build your own villages, and you're stuck in that game for hours, right? It's the same crap with social media. Social media isn't a social life. Disconnect. Go communicate with real folks. The people that are on your social media that you can talk to, see them somewhere, coffee shop, whatever. Social media isn't a social life. This is something that a lot of people fall prey to. Our younger generation is really falling prey to this because some people, it's that self-esteem a lot of times. Because on social media, you can be whoever you want to be. You can be the greatest person out there on social media. That can give you everything you need via social media without you having to step foot anywhere. And that's part of our problem. We don't seek that information in other places anymore. Social media isn't a social life. You got to get out there. You got to see people. You got to do things. You got to enjoy the world. Everything is, you can get away from that computer or that phone um, or the television. Social media isn't a social. And that social media isn't a hobby. Pretty much the same thing for everything I just basically said. It isn't a hobby. It's something a lot of people do to pass time. Um, they want to make it out to be a hobby like reading but it's not a substitute for a lot of our intelligent stuff as well, right? It's not a hobby. I'm not even going to belabor a point on social media. It isn't a hobby. It isn't a social life. Disconnect. You want a hobby? Go knit yarn or something, origami. What else? What else? What else can you do? Or read your book. Um, bow and arrow. I mean, hiking. Whatever your hobby is. Social media is not a hobby. Disconnect. Start your mornings media free. Okay, this is a tough one. Okay, because the first thing I do when I get up in the morning, I'm guilty. 7 times out of 10, I'm probably reaching for my phone the first thing in the morning, so I can see how my morning's going to start because I get certain alerts that I need to look at in the morning for work. Um, I guess that's not media free. That's actually work, right? Well, when we talk about media free, let's talk about your news. Let's talk about the social media platform. Start your mornings media free. I don't know what that's going to look like for you, but you can start out maybe what just watching. I don't know if I want to say even watching TV or anything like that, but because maybe a TV show. I don't know because when we talk about media, you know, it's a little tough. I mean, it really, 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 really is a tough thing to do. Um, if anyone has any ideas about that one, I would definitely uh, love to hear it, because a lot of times when we get up, we're looking at our text messages and things like that. So what I've also seen something here where they say that we can begin to have unrealistic expectations. There's the people who know about such things say that you experience hundreds and possibly thousands of media messages every day. They come through your phone, computer, television, radio, and print media. When you're always hooked up, you are exposed to perfect people. I mean, that is extremely truly funny. It goes back to what I said about social media. They also say that advertisers use these beautiful people to sell their products. This can lead to unrealistic expectations for yourself. When just about everyone you see online or on the television is perfect, how does that make you feel? It says you can basically start to doubt yourself as well, right? So you don't want to start your day off doubting yourself. You want to start off telling yourself just how positive every day is going to that day is going to be. And at some point, then you go look at it, right? But disconnect. Try doing something without your phone. Okay, now this is where I draw the line at. When they say try doing something without your phone. Let's be real. Almost everything we do right now has something to do with that phone, right? So I remember my mom cooking. My mom didn't have a cell phone. We're talking when I was a kid. My mom didn't have a cell phone to while she was cooking. She knew how to do her ingredients. She learned from her mom or however, and she learned and she started cooking or whatever from books. Didn't require a phone, right? Um, and I know I'm probably pulling at your hunger strings right now. Now you want to eat, right? Um, she did all her ingredients. She did all the pinches, the cups of whatever. She didn't use a phone to go and look and say, well, let me see how long this cooks. So that could be something you could do. Go cook with a recipe book without the use of your phone, without looking it up. Bartending. People didn't always have phones. They had to look up the ingredients and whatever the drink was. They did it because they knew it already, right? They didn't second guess themselves. Coaching, anything in coaching, whether it be sports or life coaching or whatever, you used books, right? You did it from the book, or you had other people that you could talk to, and you used their knowledge along with yours, and you did it without a phone. Nowadays, we use our phones we read books on our phones. We use them for the audio book, right? Me personally, I'm always on the go. I love the audio book, especially if you get like the unabridged versions and you get like everything, right? I love that. That's just something I love to do. And it helps me to not have to sit there with the book in my hand. And it's just it's a convenience, right? But try doing something without your phone, right? The book, cooking, the TV. Like for people I'm going to just say back in the day, we used to have the TV guide. You didn't have the TV guide on your phone or on the TV that showed up because of it's now being connected to your smart TV or whatever, right? You had to look through an actual book, the TV guide, to know what was going to happen to supposedly on these shows, what shows were coming on, right? Last but not least, the dreaded phone book. Not many people remember what a phone book even looks like. That big, thick book that used to come in the mail as long as your parents paid their phone bill. You got that book every 6 months to a year or whatever. You had the business one, you had the residential one where you were listed or not listed, right? You didn't use a phone to do that. You literally had to know how to read the phone book or the dictionary. And that's the last one I'll give y'all. With the dictionary, you had to know the what words came between whatever words by looking at the top of the dictionary. It was also educational as well, learning how to use those indexes, right? So do something without your phone. Um, I gave you a couple of ideas. Some of them may be archaic, or whatever, but just to give you some ideas, do something without your phone. Disconnect. Turn your unimportant notifications off. I'm gonna give you this one real quick. When I go on vacation, My phone is probably the it's like the last thing that I'm worried about. Um, I turn a lot of my notifications off. Everyone knows that I'm gone. I'm on vacation. There's nothing I can do for you. That's on vacation, right? But even when you're home, turn your unimportant notifications off. If there's something, if you have your kids out or something, put them in your favorites, right, on your phone. However you do it on your phone, put them in your favorites to where you're going to get their text messages, you're going to get their phone calls, your mom, grandma, whoever that's most important. Other than that, the unimportant notifications, turn them off. You might want to just go to your phone. I know on the iPhone you can put the battery level on like the lowest level or whatever it is. Put the battery level on, change it to whatever that setting is, change it to low or whatever, and it will automatically like stop all of those notifications pushing to you, such as your emails and stuff like that. I believe you will still get your VIP notifications for like the family members that you have in your favorites, right? But check those out. Turn the unimportant notifications off. Everything on your phone is not as important as you make it out to be. Trust me, I know because I've been there. I've had all the notifications on. It's not that important. Disconnect. It costs nothing to spend more time in nature. Not going to belabor this point. I've already talked about going out and hiking, looking at the trails. Some of you have seen me in videos where I've been out with the ducks walking, and the ducks are walking beside us, waterfalls, dams, and stuff like that. Enjoy nature. It costs you nothing to do that. Go to your state parks or wherever and enjoy those things. And guess what? You don't need. You really don't need your phone. You don't need your phone to share it with everybody. Yes. Do we do it? Yes. You might take a picture here or there. Enjoy that time. Disconnect. Disconnect with the world to reconnect with yourself. Pretty simple, as we just said. Everything that you're doing, when you're going out and about, you don't always need your phone. Your phone is a convenience. Your phone is there for emergency times, right? But it does not have to be there for you to share every single thing with everybody. That may hurt some people's feelings. It is what it is. I'm not here to worry about you liking me. I'm just giving you what's there. You don't need your phone to share every waking moment with people, right? Disconnect with the world to reconnect with yourself. It's to be honest, it's all about you. This is a time where you get to be selfish. You don't have to share every single thing. But I do like a lot of the baby shower stuff that people do. Some of those things help us out, right? Some of those, when people show their vacations and they're wherever they are, yeah, I love to watch them and stuff, right? But what I'm saying, I believe we all like to see those, right? But what we're saying is that we see a lot of people's happiness, but that's not always our world at that time. But at that time, it sometimes it helps us, but sometimes we see a lot of the sorrow as well, right? So what you want to do is you want to disconnect with the world, reconnect with yourself. We see a lot of stuff going on in the world that we really don't want to see all the time, but unfortunately, because we're so connected, we're so connected and intertwined with social media and everything else that's going on in the world, we don't take the time to reconnect with ourselves. So disconnect. Exchange concrete for a dirt trail. This pretty much goes the same as being out in the nature, right? Um, Depending on where you live, you can find some great dirt trails to just walk and enjoy nature. It's like I said, it's pretty much the same thing as I just said. You get out there and you just disconnect with the world and just take a stroll. A couple weeks ago, I went to the lake. I took some pictures of the ducks and walking with the ducks, and they literally were walking right beside us. Um, by the time we turned around, I'm pretty sure we did over 2, 3 miles, right? And you really don't realize it. But if you're sitting there having to take the pictures every time, you're not going to realize, just how much time you actually enjoy it, right? Um, wow. Yeah, disconnect. Start a morning meditation routine. Real simple. You can get up in the morning and tell yourself, today's going to be a great day. I am going to do everything within my power to make this the best day possible. You can tell yourself that every day, right? Um, you can also go over to facilitatetheprocess.com, and we have a webinar there that about Mondays, making your making your Mondays the best, or remaking your Mondays, whatever you want to call it, that you're going to do. And it's like a little thing there that says I love Mondays. Like it's all about Mondays, right? Or Tuesdays or Thursdays or Fridays. Whatever is your day that usually starts your week, but starting with Mondays is usually what it is. And if you check out that webinar, you're going to see some things where they talk about the starting with a morning routine, right? Get that, start doing that. And that doesn't require your phone either. That just can be you talking to yourself, telling yourself affirmations, which you can also find on our website, where you're going to just get some stuff out there and you're going to start being you. Not you connected, you're going to be you disconnected because you're going to be connected enough throughout the day. Disconnect. Social media can be quite unsociable. Um, Social media can be one of the most harmful things to anyone, from our kids all the way up through our adults. There are a lot of things that are going on in there. I'm not even going to worry about giving too many examples of it, but it has harmed our kids. It has harmed us. There's been a lot of bullying and things like that on social media. So yeah, social media can be quite unsociable. So sometimes once you see it, you just disconnect. Don't go back and forth with it because that stuff on social media is there forever. By the time you take it down, someone's already screenshotted some, comments that you've made. Some of these things can directly affect your job. We've seen it. It has happened. It has hurt people's scholarship opportunities in athletics, and has definitely lost people jobs. So don't even get yourself into that situation. It can be very unsociable. It can also be a great thing to keep in contact with friends and family that are not within travel, general travel's reach of you, right? Disconnect. Find ways to disconnect from worry. Um, a little different. You got things going on in your life. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to really get away from a lot of things, right? You can do things like breathe. You can do things like take a walk. You can take a ride. Do something that will make you feel better, legally feel better, and disconnect from any of the worry that you have going on. Because you hear it a lot. For everything that you may be going through, there's someone that's going through something a lot worse. And my mom always tells me that because it's very day. She always says it. And I'm like, Ma, come on. You tell me this all the time. She says, yeah, I tell you that all the time because it's never going to change, no matter how old you get. Right. And that resonates with me every time when I talk to my mom and she's going through something, or I have a family that's going through something. And I think about that every time she says it. Right. So yeah, you gotta find those ways to disconnect from the worry. There's always going to be something to worry about. What are you going to do to disconnect and find what makes it better? Whether that's going around a family member that you know is going to make you laugh. Everybody has that one family member that doesn't care about anything, but they're going to make you laugh and they're going to keep you, um, they're going to keep your spirits up, right? And then, it's not just your job to try to keep your spirits up. Hopefully, you have someone who can help you to kind of get away from a lot of those worries as well. So for me, like I say, a lot of times that's my mom because she'll always remind me that things are not as bad as they seem, and we can always do something to make them better, right? So disconnect. Eliminate gadgets from your bedroom. We already talked about reaching for the cell phone first thing in the morning. Unfortunately, in our bedrooms, that's where all our gadgets lie. Um, But I challenge you. If you don't have to have it, leave your tablet, leave your telephone or your whatever smart device you have. Leave it in a whole nother room. Because if you're really, really tired, you're probably not going to take the time to walk all the way to the whatever room that you have it in to go get it. I'm just saying. It may be tough for you to do, so don't go back and say, Anthony told me to just leave everything in the room in the other room so that no one can go get them. That's not what I said. You don't have everybody chasing me down. So what I am really saying is just what I said. Those devices, if you don't need them right away, when it's time to go to bed, if you have an office in your home, because of some people do remote work, right? Leave those devices in that room. You're probably not going to want to have to walk all the way down the hall or to your basement or wherever to get those devices. So then you're not going to be apt to really try to touch them or get to them, right? So if that makes sense, try it out. And when you try it out, let me know if it works. Because I'm gonna tell you now, when I leave mine in my home office, I'm really not trying to get out of bed to go get them. Um, really not. I might make an excuse to go to the fridge and then stop by the room and go check it. But I really couldn't do that. But eliminate the gadgets from your bedroom. Yes, it is tough because everything in our bedrooms now are gadgets, right? Some of us we have Alexa and everything else. So try it out. But at some point, that's what you got to do. Yeah, you guessed it. You got to disconnect. That boundary between work and play pretty much is what I've already talked about. When you're on vacation, you're on vacation. When you're out at your kid's recital or you're at your kid's sporting event or whatever your kids are doing at that time, those boundaries, you have to set those boundaries. That's play, maybe not play for you, play for your kids. But when you're playing and you're out on vacation and you're doing something wonderful or whatever you're doing, you're out with your loved one doing whatever, that set those boundaries. If you're not on a work status, it's not time to work. It's time to play. It's time to have fun. It's time to do all the stuff that you've been waiting to do when you got away from work. Set the boundaries. It's not time for work. Disconnect. It's time for play. It's time for you to take care of yourself at that point. So you got to remember, you matter. So if you matter, that means you have to continue to take care of yourself and you have to set your boundaries. People who disrespect your boundaries disrespect you. Let me say that again. People who disrespect your boundaries disrespect you. So you have to remind them to that it's your time to disconnect and that those boundaries are there for a reason. So don't let your devices disrespect you either. Right? Turn them off. Do what you got to do. But it's all about those boundaries. I mean, I can't say it enough. Those boundaries are there for a reason. Keep those boundaries there. When you need to, you just have to do what? You already know what I'm about to say. You have to disconnect. Spend more time in your local community. I know a lot of people that volunteer to do a lot of things. People that work with kids, they work with the House of Ruth. They work with a lot of the local nonprofits. They do things within the schools and the rec centers. You have people that volunteer to do a lot of things. Continue to please do those things because if we have folks that aren't doing those things, they will never happen. And when we aren't doing them, we aren't trickling that down to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation and so forth, right? We want to be able to continue to show people that we are doing these things and we want them to be there and we want them to be a part of that as well. So we need to continue to do that as well so that they'll do it, right? If we stop doing it, this one generation stops doing it, the next generation may not catch on, and the next one surely won't catch on because they won't know anything about it, right? Make sense? So spend more time in your local community. That's another way to disconnect. And it will work wonders not only for you, but it would also work wonders for whoever it is that you're assisting at that time. So disconnect. Please remember, remote work does not mean working constantly. I am sure many of you already know this. You've found a way to do it, and you've been very successful at it. You may not know the complete definition of what working remotely is, but soon, if you pay attention to our page, facilitate the process.com, we are working on something for remote work. Many people have already talked about it, but we're going to talk about it in our way. We don't do 80 million scripted ways of doing it. We keep it real. And we're going to talk about remote work because it doesn't mean that for every second of the day you are sitting there in front of your computer doing the work. You can't do that. If you do that, you will burn out. Okay. So also remember that everything here is for informational, educational purposes. All right. You will burn out. You will not want to do anything else. You will not want to do anything else the rest of your day. You will not be wanting to disconnect. You will constantly wind up working the entire time. It's not meant for you to do that. It's meant for you to be able to get up, walk away. It's easier for you now to get up, walk away, walk to your refrigerator, maybe sit in your living room for a little bit or wherever your non-office is, and watch TV for a little bit, watch your show. But to step away and you disconnect doesn't mean to work constantly. If you work constantly, you will burn out a lot faster than you think. Trust me, I know. especially if you are someone who's really about your work. When it's time to work and you're constantly doing it, you will burn out. So remember, remote work doesn't mean working constantly. Keep your lunchtime in there. Set that time apart of what you're going to do in the beginning of your day. Like I have a part in my beginning of my day between 1 to 2 hours. I have certain things that I have to do. I'm probably not answering my phone. I'm probably not answering emails unless it's extremely important. But you got to take that time in between to where you got to work on certain things. And don't forget to take your lunches, just as if you were working in the office. You're still going to take a lunch, right? You still have to do that. Take the time that you still have to do. It doesn't mean you work constantly throughout the day. Okay. So at some point there, you still have to disconnect. Well, our time has come to an end. And speaking about disconnecting, and I don't really know what else that I can actually say about it other than I really appreciate you all taking the time to listen to this, right? Because the information is it's a lot, right? And if you want, I will definitely also try to make sure that I get you the some articles about disconnecting. And I don't know, you know, how that we can really affect this other than making sure that we are taking the time out to taking the time out to really, really make make a complete understanding, make ourselves aware, I guess I should say, that disconnecting is extremely important. As it says there, stepping away from an increasingly connected world. I mean, I don't know how much, I don't know how much more important how much more, how many more words I can say to that. Stepping away is a great thing. Okay. It is a great thing. Once again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything that you all do. As far as whatever careers you're in as an educator or social worker, uh, coach on whatever level you are coaching your sport in, whether you're a life coach, whether you're in public safety. I appreciate you all, and I hope that this is something that you can use at home. This is something you can use at work. And until the next time, continue to work on everything that you are doing. We're, I don't know how many other ways to say it. Disconnect and continue to be healthy.